You're listening to Autumn on the Air, the weekly podcast that brings you conversations about the impact of research commercialization and the people who make it happen. Join us for interviews with patent and licensing professionals, innovators, entrepreneurs, and tech transfer leaders on the issues and trends that matter most. Keep listening for an inside track on the people, IP policies, and politics changing our world.
Welcome to Autumn on the Air. One of the things that makes the tech transfer community unique is how collaborative it is. Whether you're working in a large office with a full team or a small office where you're wearing many hats, the challenges can look very different. But the community that supports this work is often what makes the difference. Joining me today are two leaders who have spent a lot of time thinking about how small office or under-resourced offices not only survive, but thrive. Caitlin Long is the Director of Technology Transfer and Innovation at Alvernia University and serves as the AUTM Small Office Co-Chair and an AUTM Foundation board member. Her work focuses on translating ideas into real-world health impact through Alvernia's student-powered and community-engaged innovation model. Also joining us is Sanaz Shahi, Administrator Director of Intellectual Property at Rowan University and co-chair of the AUTM Small Offices Committee. Sanaz also serves in multiple leadership roles supporting diversity, mentorship, and professional development across the AUTM community. Caitlin and Sanaz recently operated a roundtable at the 2026 AUTM annual meeting focused on innovative and sustainable approaches for managing small or under-resourced tech transfer offices. Caitlin and Sanaz, welcome to Autumn on the Air.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, really excited to have you both here today on the podcast. And I thought the best place to kick the podcast off is to start with something I think a lot of people listening to this podcast can relate to. When you're running a small office, what does a job actually look like day in and day out?
So in a small office, you are wearing many hats. So oftentimes you are the operations person and the licensing manager. In our world, we do a lot of non-traditional, externally focused tech transfer work with our community. So a lot of times that's interacting with stakeholders. And we also have a student-powered model. So I'm responsible for supervising about 40 students right now from high school through PhD who work in our tech transfer office. So managing all those different hats all at once can be very challenging, but that certainly is the day-to-day, and every single day is unique and different, but that's what makes it fun.
How about you, Sanaz? Do you have any thoughts on what the day-to-day looks like?
As Caitlin said, in small offices, you wear many hats. And yeah, that's both the challenging and the fun of it, because no 2 days, it's the same days. In a single day, you might go for reviewing invention disclosure to speaking with outside counsel about patent strategy to dealing with invoices and budget question, and also meeting with faculty about their research and commercialization plans. So in a small offices, you're continuously switching between big picture strategy and very detailed operational work, including financial management, which is a much bigger part of the job than people expected.
Now, given that you're in small offices, there have got to be moments when you really feel the weight of wearing so many different hats. Can you share with us some of those moments?
So just in the last week, we had a major grant due. So I think balancing deadlines with all of the other people and things that need your attention. So for me, at the same time, my students need me, my boss or stakeholders, clients need me, the faculty need me all at the same time. It always kind of happens like that. So I think that's certainly the challenge, is sometimes wishing that you just had a little more time in the day to balance all those factors, but we get it done.
Now, are there certain responsibilities that you think would surprise people who maybe have never experienced working in a small office?
So, yeah, I think people are often surprised by how much of the role in financial and in the administrative. Beyond IP strategy, a significant portion of the job involves managing patent budgets, reviewing and reconciling legal invoices, and ensuring compliance with institutional and sponsor requirements.
Now, has there ever been a moment for either one of you where you remember thinking, boy, I'm going to need help figuring this out, and I bet no one on my campus has the answer?
Absolutely. So when I first started out, we actually were just building up our tech transfer office from the ground up. That had never been done before at our institution. So there were people who really didn't even understand what tech transfer was or what we were trying to accomplish in the very beginning. So definitely felt that way at times. And that's where I really feel like leaning into our wonderful tech transfer community, consultants, colleagues like Sanaz has been so helpful to be able to feel a little bit less lonely in that endeavor.
Yeah, and sticking on this theme of figuring out things internally, in a lot of professions, people are expected to do just that. But in tech transfer, it doesn't often work out that way. And that leads to something that I've heard time and time again, said over and over again, is that the tech transfer community is incredibly supportive. Do either one of you remember a moment maybe early in your career where you needed advice and the AUTM community stepped in?
Yes, absolutely. One of the most impactful moments in my career was receiving the Susan Kelly Technology Transfer Career Transition Fellowship in 2017. That experience really opened the door to the AUTM community for me, and it completely changed how I approach this field. At that point in my career, I was still navigating many aspects of technology transfer, especially in a small office setting where you don't always have internal resources to rely on. Throughout the fellowship, I gained access not just to knowledge, but to people, experienced professionals who were willing to share their insight openly. I remember reaching out with very specific questions, particularly around budgeting, managing patent costs, and making strategy decisions with limited sources. These weren't theoretical questions. They were real, day-to-day challenges. And what stood out to me was how generous people were with their time. They didn't just give general advice. They shared practical approaches, lessons learned, and even things that didn't work. Over time, those interactions built a level of confidence for me. Instead of feeling like I had to figure out everything out on my own, I realized that I could tap into a collective knowledge basis. That was especially important whether when I found myself in a situation where I was the only person in the office and had to make a decision across intellectual property, compliance, and budgeting.
I also did the Susan Riley Keyes Fellowship back in 2022 and 23 for AUTM. And that was a huge learning opportunity for me. I was a healthcare provider transitioning into this newfound world of tech transfer. And to my knowledge, no other physician associates have done that before. So I was really feeling like a pioneer at the time. And coming fresh out of fellowship, just came out with not just the technical knowledge, but mentors that were both formal and informal, and were always so willing to pick up the phone and just give you anything that you needed. Really quickly had to become kind of trilingual and learn all of the different languages that tech transfer professionals speak, like business, law, science. That was really incredible just to kind of learn, again, not only the technical skills, but those people skills that were so important.
So, Sanaz, you mentioned generosity, and I think that's really true that the tech transfer community is really generous. Why do you think people are so willing to share knowledge and help one another out?
I think because we all understand the challenges, especially in small offices, limited budgets, small teams, and increasing expectations. That's a shared understanding that we are all solving similar problems and helping each other ultimately strengthen the entire field.
And I think when you think about the word knowledge transfer itself, it's kind of intrinsic to what we do. It's all about expanding and spreading information and research that's as well as best practices that are going to help better society. So I think it's just so innate in our DNA as tech transfer professionals that we're so willing to share with one another.
Now, I want to switch to something that I know is very near and dear to both of your hearts, and that's the AUTM Small Office Special Interest Group, which really has become an extremely important hub for many of its members and a place where a lot of those connections happen. For some of our listeners who may be not familiar with the Small Office SIG, why is it such an important resource?
So for the Small Office SIG, or Special Interest Group, also known as the e-groups on AUTM, this has become so much more than just an online forum. It's really become a support group. And we say anyone who's ever felt understaffed, under-resourced, under-budgeted, this is the place for you. And unfortunately, in today's climate, that's becoming a lot more offices than we would like to see. So this has been a place where we really talk about everything from ideation all the way through commercialization and everything in between, sharing best practices, and just really understanding what works, what doesn't work for small offices, and how we can best help each other reach for success.
So what kind of conversations do you have? It sounds like they run the full gamut of things, anything and everything. Is that fair?
Yes, I have to say the conversations are very real and very practical. We talk about things like how to manage a patent portfolio within a limited budget, how to make go, no-go decision on filing, how to work efficiently with outside counsel, and how to handle staffing limitation, which is really important. But also we go deeper into areas that can be difficult to navigate alone, like IDSM reporting, BIDOLAC compliance, cost allocation across multiple funding sources, or AUTM survey, and how to build process when you don't have a full team in place. These are the kind of topics that don't always come up in formal things and trainings, but they're critical to doing the job well.
I would imagine then it really does help members share strategies and as well as learn from one another.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. There's a lot of camaraderie in the small office group, and we're always willing to help each other out.
So I would imagine that one of the biggest risks for small offices is feeling like you have to build every process from scratch. How does the AUTM network help people avoid reinventing the wheel?
Yeah, the AUTM network plays a critical role in helping small offices operate more efficiently, especially when resources are limited and you simply don't have the capacity to build everything from scratch. In a small office, time and budget are always constrained. So the ability to decision making on prioritizing and what others have already developed, whether it's a template, policies, workflows, or benchmarking data, is really valuable. What I found particularly helpful in access to real-world examples.
I want to go back and talk about a roundtable that the two of you held at the annual meeting in Seattle, where you talked about sustainability and avoiding burnout. When you look across the small office community, what are the most effective and creative solutions to help manage growing responsibilities?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And burnout is certainly a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and something that I had actually done in my doctoral research. But small office professionals are definitely prone to burnout because of the need to manage all of the competing responsibilities. For me personally, I find, being able to understand when to turn it on and turn it off. So when I leave at the end of the day, even though I know there's a lot of tasks still waiting for me, I'm able to go home and be present with my family and my loved ones. part of that ability to be able to turn it off is when you are on during the day to really build strong teams around you. So even though you might be the only person managing the tech transfer office or in a very small team, there are other colleagues in the university as well as other stakeholders or mentors that you can partner with and collaborate with who can really strengthen not just your ecosystem, but the infrastructure around you to make an even stronger team in a broader sense. Even if you can't afford the personnel, you can get creative in different ways to strengthen that foundation. So one of the ways that we've done that in our office is heavily relying on student workers. So we employ students through our federal work study program predominantly. The undergrad population is actually the biggest part of all the students that we work with in our tech transfer office. So that's one way that we've been able to combat the workload, where they might not be full-time personnel and maybe only putting 5 to 10 hours a week in the office, but it still goes miles when it comes to figuring out how to manage everything.
Now, I would think that another challenge, in addition to burnout that you just mentioned, Caitlin, would be that sometimes in a small office, you have a feeling of being isolated. What would you say to someone who might be the only person in a tech transfer office or the only professional at their institution?
I would absolutely say, selfishly, join the SIG. Come to one of our bi-monthly calls, come to the roundtable at the annual meeting if you can, or reach out to us. There's nothing better than being plugged into the community, even when you are feeling a little bit alone on an island. These people are here to support you and to, again, not let you reinvent the wheel, but to work smarter, not harder. And that's something that we really promote in the SIG and really help others to empower them to create in their atmospheres.
I want to add some things to all the things that Caitlin said, that I want to encourage people to actively participate, ask questions, follow up with individuals, and build those one-on-one connections. Some of the most valuable support I've received came from simply reaching out to someone after a session for six, and that was really helpful. And I'm saying to people that I'm dealing with something similar. Would you be open to sharing your experience? And people, they're really open and they want to, share all the experience that they have with you. And it's a practical experience, I have to say.
Now, as the podcast comes to a close, I want to ask the two of you, as you look back at your own careers, how has being a part of the AUTM community helped shape the way you approach this profession?
Being part of the AUTM community has fundamentally shaped how I approach this profession, both strategically and operationally. It reinforced the importance of collaboration, transparency, and shared learning, especially when making compliance decisions around IP strategy, compliance, or budget management. It's happened. Those are not decisions that benefit from being made in, just isolation. And for me, the biggest shift was moving from a mindset of how I can figure out it myself, which was very real during the time I was running the office alone, to recognize that there is a collective expertise that I can draw from. That shift not only made me more confident in my decisions, but also more thoughtful. I began to approach challenges with more perspective, more data points, and better understanding of how others have handled similar situations. It's also changed how I lead and build system with this office. I'm more intentional about creating processes that are informed by best practice and more open to adopting approaches that have already been proven efficient elsewhere.
Yes, Sanaz really hit the nail on the head with that. I couldn't agree more. I think for me personally, going from my healthcare journey into becoming a fellow and now a leader in the Small Office SIG as well as the AUTM Foundation board, I really feel like the both of us are helping to kind of shape what the future of AUTM looks like as we are, looking into new horizons on what can tech transfer professionals really do and be. I think we're kind of spearheading some of those conversations, and it's really an exciting community to be a part of. And I can't wait to see what happens next.
Likewise, I think you guys are both doing a fantastic job with the Small Office SIG, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And thank you so much for spending time with us today on the podcast. It's been a real pleasure talking to the two of you and learning more about the Small Office SIG.
Thank you. Bye.
Caitlin and Sanaz, thank you both for sharing your perspectives and for the leadership you bring to this community. While the work of tech transfer can sometimes feel complex or even isolating, it's also supported by an incredibly collaborative network of professionals who are willing to share knowledge and help each other succeed. For our listeners, we'll include links in the show notes to the AUTM Small Office SIG and other resources mentioned in today's conversation. And if you're working in a small office or even a large one, remember that this community is one of your most valuable resources. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on AUTM on the Air.
Thanks for listening to AUTM on the Air with Lisa Mueller. Get social with us and share your thoughts. You can tweet us at AUTM or visit us online at autm.net. We'll be back next week on the air. Be sure to join us.